Home. It's where you build your legacy, where traditions are started, seeds are planted, meals are shared, and stories are told. We are Chris and Natalie Carpenter, owners of Story Real Estate, and our team of top agents helps people find homes in Moscow, Idaho, and around the country.
Have you thought about a move? Contact us to get connected with a top agent who shares your values and puts your family first. Or reach out to us about our Moscow relocation guide.
Wherever you're looking to go, we can help you find home. Call us at Story Real Estate or visit us at storyrealestate.com and start building your legacy.
Idaho is supposedly a conservative state.
Well,
you got to hang around to see what's going to happen here. Hey, y'all, welcome to Cross Politic, home of Fight Laugh Feast Network. Pastor Toby Chalk Knox on the Waterboy. It's good to be with you guys this evening.
Am I wearing the same jacket and shirt? Maybe.
All week.
Are you concerned your child's current education won't give them the skills necessary to succeed in any area of life? Consider homeschooling with Classical Conversations. By applying the classical Christian model of education, the Classical Conversations curriculum encourages students to learn how to learn, and how to think for themselves as they can adapt.
And think how to think.
Yeah, and how they can adapt to every challenge life throws at them. Join over 50,000 families in 50 countries who've chosen to educate their children with Classical Conversations. Visit them today at classicalconversations.com/FLF. That's classicalconversations.com/FLF. We're grateful to have with us on the show today Fred McGrath. He serves as ILA's president. What is the ILA? Come on now, guys. You got to give me the name of this. The Institute for Legislative Analysis. There we go. He's the president, overseeing the organization's policy research and scorecard operations. Fred, thanks for joining us on Cross Politic.
Thanks for having me.
So, can you give us a background, like how did the ILA start? Did you start it, and how did you get involved?
Yeah, so the team and we used to be at the American Conservative Union in CPAC. So we're there for about a decade and helped create the first 50-state scorecard. And because of the huge success we had building that program and just the way we were able to hold lawmakers accountable, we decided to create our own individual organization that is just solely for legislative ratings and producing scorecards so that we could also then supply this data to a multitude of different organizations so that together as one, we can try to better hold lawmakers accountable.
So Idaho is like one of these states where everybody's like, hey, that's a red state. We live in Idaho. Everybody's just like, that's a conservative state. And I saw your guys' recent report that came out, and it kind of, I knew things were bad, but it made me kind of mad, honestly. I thought we weren't quite this bad, but I was really surprised at how much you were arguing basically that a good number of our Republican so-called conservative legislators are voting like Democrats.
Well, it's a surprise to many, certainly to some, I think, in Idaho, but especially across, the nation from a more national level. Most of the time you see a legislature that's made up of, a vast majority of ours. You think, wow, this must be one of the most conservative states out there. But in reality, it's not. And all that has to do with is essentially the political philosophy of these R's. So what we did at ILA is we went through the state's legislative session, went through Idaho's journals, and pulled all the key votes that really reflected how these lawmakers view government. And from that, we applied we put them all on a scale from a 0 to 100. 100 represents a voting record that is very philosophically aligned with limited government principles, the U.S. Constitution, conservative. And a 0 represents a view of a big government role, a progressive state. And basically, we took all the individual lawmaker voting records and plotted them on that 0 to 100 scale. And so what did we come up with? 30% 37, at least this is now I'm talking the House, 37 of the lawmakers there scored below a 50%, meaning that they are philosophically aligned with the Democratic Party. 33 scored above a 50%, representing they're philosophically aligned with the Republican Party. And what does that ultimately mean? You have 37 aligned with the Democrat, 33 with the Republican. The Democrats control the House. And that's how we looked at Idaho.
Yeah, that's what I saw, and I forwarded that to Gabe when I saw that somebody forwarded me the email with that report, and I thought, wow, that is just. I mean, I say shocking, except I guess I shouldn't really be shocked. Can you talk to us about what are the criteria that you guys are using to create this scale? So, I mean, you said sort of.
I got some questions about Brad Little here.
So I'm holding Gabe up for just a minute, Fred, but in a second he's going to come after you. So just get ready. But like, what are some of the criteria? You said big government, small government. I mean, what would be some other kind of key criteria for determining whether somebody's voting in a way that's aligned with conservative party or not?
Yes, exactly. And again, so we don't even look at the party label. You know, any lawmaker can identify with whatever party they want, but that doesn't tell us anything. So we look at the policy. So the policies that we're looking at are really the things that impact an Idahoan's day-to-day life. So, of course, that starts with the tax and fiscal side. We're looking at regulations. We're also looking at individual liberties, kind of the size and scope of government. We're looking at all the core kind of policy areas, whether that be healthcare, whether that be the energy and environment. So we're really trying to look at the full set of issues. And then within our analyses, what we also do is we break down across 10 different categories how these lawmakers view government. So we have a healthcare policy, we have energy and environment policy. And you can really kind of see then what particular fields do they most align with a kind of a conservative mentality, or where are they falling with the left?
Okay.
So you want?
Yeah, I'm going through this list, and I've looked at it multiple times because I'm dyslexic and I might get some things wrong all the time. But I'm just looking at this list, and it seems to me that there isn't one Democrat that scored anything higher than an F. Is that right?
That is correct. And this is the same thing we're finding at the congressional level as well. The Democrat Party is very lockstep and has moved to the far left. You're not seeing, you would expect to see this kind of the same thing we would see with the Republican Party all across the different quintiles and ratings. But no, none of these Democrats exceed, I think it's above like a 20%. And in Congress, we have that exact same situation. And I think it's because the Democratic Party and their philosophy, it is just, especially under this Biden administration, has just moved so far left now philosophically that, and they all, for whatever reason, are all lock and step into it.
Wow.
That's amazing.
They're not the highest one is 10%.
Right,
10%. Is the highest rating in Idaho. Steve Birch.
Wait.
You get the most conservative Democrat award, Steve Birch.
So why is it that, from what you're seeing as you look at this would really signal to me that they're doing something in their party that we're not doing in ours. What are they
in other
doing?
Words, they believe in their platform more than we believe in ours.
And I don't understand how they keep such a pure form of their Democrat thinking in their party.
I really think that is what conservatives in this movement needs to understand, especially as we go into this, critical election year. It's like, what is this bond that the Democrats have that allows them to, first of all, not only go so far left, but to go and stick together? Because obviously, you see it, especially I'm thinking the national level. I mean, we're just, it's a wreck, with the speaker fights. Mm-hmm. And again, you even go down to, what you see in Idaho. It's just everyone's all across the board. And really, it's this, the Republican Party needs to figure out what does it take to get unified, because obviously the left has figured it out.
I am. I'm looking at the website, and I'm also looking at the report, and it seems to me like anecdotally, a lot of the percentages that you've prescribed to the Republicans and Democrats make sense. Just anecdotally, I know a lot of these legislators and senators. But then I start looking at the issues and start seeing some of the issues and how high you're scoring things like education and stuff like that. And then I get down to Brad Little. and you got to burn my saddle on this one, buddy. I look at Brad Little on individual liberties.
Do you have a slide on that? You guys have a slide on Brad Little, don't you? His rating?
Oh yeah, there you go. No, that's super helpful. Thank you. Blow it up.
I just want to point out that Gabe is upset. I mean, he only has a 42%, and Gabe is upset.
Yeah,
he's like, that is too high.
He's too high. Too high. And so I look at so I understand this is 2023 analysis, but in 2020, Brad Little shut down churches during COVID. Like his view of individual liberties is really actually bad. And then I look at education. What does 100% mean when Brad Little gave additional $330 million to public schools in 2023? Like that's atrocious. So I don't know. That's where. So I think a lot of anecdotally, I see some of your percentages like that makes sense. That makes sense. And then I'm like, okay, well, what's the methodology they're using to give Brad Little 100% when he got additional $330 million given over to public schools this year? When I don't think any conservative is right mind believes in limited government and says no public funds should go to education. There should be no Department of Education in state of Idaho, no Department of Education in DC, and no state funds should be going to education. And he got $330 million. Please defend yourself.
Yes, well. First, I'll say, Governor Little there, he got 42% rating. What does that indicate? That means that he is philosophically more aligned with the Democrat Party than he is with the Republican Party.
You went too easy on him.
Now, as far as the education, and I think you're right. I think probably right there, that 100%. Is maybe not the most reflective of where he really is. I think he's much lower. But just to give you some context of how we created that rating system. So again, we've been holding the legislative branch accountable through the scorecard program. So what we've done at ILA, this is actually the first rating system for governors that also holds them accountable the same way as the legislative branch. So what do? We're pulling all the bills that ultimately made it to his desk
that he signed
and or vetoed.
Right.
Now, unfortunately, just the reality of it is the executive branch, you don't have as many votes as you do for the legislative branch. You have all those amendments, different procedural things, a much wider set of bills because, a lot of times, things don't make it to the desk. So, that is obviously on a much smaller subset. Right. However, we hope as we kind of build this program out, get more years of data on him. I think those individual categories, you'll have more basically data points to kind of trend. And that's going to really start painting the picture. So I think his overall rating is probably pretty accurate because there's a whole bunch of points kind of making that up. Mm-hmm. But I think we need some more data points still in his category, those 10 categories.
But hang on, let me follow up with that. But even then, that's helpful. But even then, you have Idaho House of Representatives scored a 96% on education. You had the Senate, Idaho Senate score a 78% on education. They just awarded $330 million in additional money to public schools. Like that's not conservative. Like what's the what's getting at where's the kink in the methodology is what I'm trying to, I guess, ask.
Yeah, I think some of it is just going to be kind of a similar subset. So you look at tax and fiscal policy, that appropriation, what you're actually talking about, that probably is actually more factored in under that category. The education, really what we're trying to hit there is that stuff surrounding school choice, parental rights, and those types of things. not as much, maybe. Yes, a perfect world, we'd be able to cross and do all that stuff, where we're hoping to go. But I think we need some more data points too, just overall outside of just those spending things to point a better picture.
I understand that. And to be fair, Brad Little got a 16% on tax and fiscal.
So that might be where your $330 million went.
Yeah.
Let me read this ad. Public houses or pubs are not just places to drink beer, wine, cider, or even something a little stronger. It's also a unique social center, very often the focus of community life in villages, towns, and cities throughout the length and breadth of the world. We here at Cross Politic hope to emulate that for you and yours. That's why you should grab yourself a pub membership at fightlaughfeast.com. We need you on this ride with us. We want you to be part of the pub community. So pull up a chair, grab a pint, and join us on this ride at fightlaughfeast.com. That's fightlaughfeast.com. And as a pub member, you get access to backstage content, all of our conference talks, and of course, discounts to our annual conference this year, Prodigal America at Fort Worth, Texas. Check it out, prodigalamerica.com. Now, more than ever, it's important to support companies and organizations that share our values. Our votes are not enough. Patriot Mobile not only shares our beliefs, but does something about it. They are America's only Christian conservative wireless carrier, and they donate a portion of every dollar to organizations that fight for causes that you care about. So switch to Patriot Mobile now. Go to patriotmobile.com/crosspolitic. That's patriotmobile.com/crosspolitic.
And if you want to move your company over to Patriot Mobile, call me and I'll introduce, and you can move your whole company over there. And they support us when you do.
That's great.
So, yeah.
Hey, Fred, I was just wondering as I was looking at this, I keep looking at this, is really fascinating to me because I don't know, when you look at data, the data doesn't always tell you the whole story of everything that's taking place. But at least you kind of have some sort of concept. And so there's a couple questions, what's the breaking point here? Do we have to have a B person in there?
F means fail.
Yeah, I got that one. I've seen that a few times, actually.
And I was happy to get a D in high school.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If I guess with all of this information, where is Idaho ranked at? And does having somebody at a C who can actually get elected, is that better for us, I guess, in one sense or another? I don't know.
That's a Moneyball game.
I don't know. Where's our breaking point at here? Does that make sense?
You've really hit it there. And that is one of the challenges with scorecards, because what are they doing? They're just measuring every single politician evenly, when in reality, you have districts that they represent, and all those districts have a multitude of view sets and levels of conservativeness. Yeah. So what I always like to say is, you look at maybe a lawmaker that is a 70% rated. If they are in, let's say, a Republican district that is, plus 30 R, well, then, they're getting barely a C. They need to be thrown out and replaced with somebody that should be getting a 95 or closer to that 100 mark, because that better represents the district.
That's good.
However, if you see one of these lawmakers with a 70%, and they're in a D+2 district, well, gosh, we should be rallying behind them and doing everything we can, because we'd much rather have that 70% rated than what we were, discussing earlier when, the highest Democrat you have rated is at 10%. Yeah. We'll take that every day. So that's kind of where ILA we're ultimately trying to go to, is overlap those philosophical ratings with the district philosophical, district scores, to then be able to overlap and better pinpoint kind of who conservatives should rally behind.
Man, that's actually really helpful. That's really helpful. And then, so how do you rate Idaho? I mean, we're technically not a Republican state.
We're just barely.
Yes. That hurts that you said that. You answered that in the affirmative.
We're not a red state.
Well, it's just, it's fascinating when you look at states like, the Floridas, the Tennessees, even Pennsylvania, all of those legislatures, they're Republican. I would say, Florida has somewhat similar distributions and stuff as Idaho, according to DNR. But across all these states, you never see Republicans falling below like a 60% in those states. But in Idaho, you see them down in the 20s and 30s. So it's just, that's what I think is just driving down Idaho so much, is the fact you just have so many of these Democrat lawmakers who know they can't win as a Republican.
Yeah.
So what do? They just run with an R next to their name.
Yep.
And a lot of people don't really look into them,
Yep.
and they get away with it. And I think that is what's really
right.
plaguing Idaho. And until that gets corrected,
Yep.
you're not going to also have those kind of same legislative wins like you see in these Florida and Tennessees and other states with similar makeups.
You kind of just put me at ease. I don't know if I like it though, because I'm like, I hope you're right, because it made me think though, are the people on the ground far more liberal than they are, since we have these kind of representatives, are they far more liberal? Or in this case, you're saying they're just ignorant of the people who's running and tell them this information.
It's just, they got an R next to it.
They got an R next to it, so I vote for them.
That is exactly what happens. And here's the thing. It's bad. Like if you just go out, in the public, go to your grocery store and talk politics, which I don't know is always the most recommended thing. But let's just say you're polling, people and saying, hey, do you know who your federal, member of Congress is? Some will say, probably they know. But especially where I am out here, at least on the East Coast, and I got to imagine it's similar out there. You ask them who their state lawmaker is, very few people know. Yeah. And then you ask them, what were some of the big issues that, they voted on or were brought up? And it's just, a very small fraction of the average, voters have any clue. And that's what these essentially these fake Republicans, how they get away with it, because, there's just very few, such little accountability and transparency as to what is actually going on. And until we can fight through that, which it's a challenge, because if you're an everyday person, are you going to have a background in legislative, analysis? Are you going to really understand the conservative positions on every single policy? No. So that's just why, that's why we're here trying to go and educate, the masses, and why it's going to take a whole number of other groups and folks just really stepping up and trying to get the word out there.
Okay. Yeah, I was just going looking at the website.
Limitedgov.org. Limitedgov.org. This is easy to remember. That's where the Institute of Legislative Analysis, their website is, and their scorecards. Check out your state. Check out your representatives. Yeah. Check out what kind of grades they're getting.
Yeah. Fred, thank you for coming on. Appreciate you very much, sir.
Thank you so much, and thanks for all that you guys are doing to spread the word.
If you're single, get married. If you're married, have you some kids. If you have kids, go baptize them. Until next time, love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Love your neighbor as yourself. Go fight, laugh, and feast. This is Cross Politic.
You sit in church week after week, embracing the truth of God's word. You believe the gospel and claim Jesus Christ as your Lord. Yet you continue to struggle with pornography. You feel like a hypocrite, returning to the sin you hate that mocks the God you love. You desperately wonder, is lasting freedom even possible? Yes, you can overcome pornography, but not alone. 2 Timothy 2:22 says, "Now flee from youthful lusts, and pursue righteousness, faith, love, and peace, with those who call on the Lord from a pure heart. Only by repeatedly running from sin to Christ with other believers can you hope to enjoy lasting freedom." You can live with purity and integrity. Take courage, seek accountability, and do whatever is necessary. Get equipped at accountable2you.com.